are here at ASAPS 2019 in New Orleans, and I'm here with Dr. Paul Feldman, and we're just going to ask him some questions about you. We're going to learn a little bit about you. So I'll go ahead and get started with an easy one. What's your favorite color?
Depends.
Okay. What does it depend on? Is it your mood?
Probably the mood and the context that you're going to use the color in.
Okay.
I wish life was so simple I could have one color for everything, but it doesn't seem to work that way.
In your current state and mood, what's your favorite color right now?
Blue.
Okay.
Even though I'm not.
Okay. Good. All right, next question. If you could sit down with your 25-year-old self or your younger self, give him any advice, what would you say?
Well, I have a 23-year-old son. He'll be 23 in a month.
There you go.
And I tried to give him advice, but I'm not sure he's ever heard it. But when he was in school, he's going to college, and I told him to actually, every time he takes a course, try to prove the teacher wrong in his own mind, not to interrupt the class or anything like that. But if you're taking a lecture, if you're going to engage in the lecture more, trying to prove it wrong.
Interesting.
Makes you have to think more about the topic.
You're challenging things,
right,
rather than just conforming and
well, but also if you just listen to somebody, it's easy to listen to it and not really think about it. Mm-hmm. But if you want to prove them wrong, you have to really think about it. You have to find the holes in the argument.
That's a really great lesson. It's something I don't think I've ever heard anybody say. Kind of like how they say if you can teach a subject, you'll know it a lot better. But that's exactly. An interesting way to look at it. I like that. I once took an adult education course, and I hate to get on this topic, but it was about modern biblical scholarship, and they talked about the documentary hypothesis, and it was one of these things I never heard about before, and I went up to the teacher afterwards, and I said, what's the argument against that? And she said, there is no argument. And I said, it's a hypothesis, it's not even a theory, there has to be an argument against it, and I spent a considerable amount of time trying to find all the arguments against that. Interesting. That's very interesting.
But every theory, everything has some gap to it.
Yeah, but even just thinking about it is more important than having to necessarily find the gap. It
Correct.
Makes you challenging.
Well, I'm not sure you'll always find it, but it makes you engage in the topic.
That's great. I love that one. So, getting on the topic of your profession, what do you love most about your profession?
It may seem trite, but I do enjoy working with the patients. I enjoy people. I enjoy talking to them. Sometimes I get off the track and talk to them a little bit about their life. And that's the part that I think I spend. The days are long, but it goes very fast.
Yeah. Do you do you follow up with them too? Do you like keeping a relationship with the patients even after? Do you have any sort of thoughts on that?
Well, I don't stalk them afterwards.
Yeah.
They get to live their life, and when they come back, it's kind of fun to actually see a patient after a few years come back, or at the Medi-Spa. Sometimes I'll see them on a more regular basis, and then sometimes you get to treat some of their family members. So it's fun to actually have that connection with them.
Oh, that's really cool.
And then actually in surgery, it's fun to do the surgery itself. Mm-hmm. You can get engrossed in it. You get to listen to music. You work with very nice people. It's like, most of the time I look up and I see the day is gone. I never look at the clock and go, the day is dragging.
That's great. That means you're in the right spot. Well, on that topic, if you weren't in this profession, what is it that you think you'd do?
Your job looks pretty good.
It's fun. So you do marketing. You do, would you do interviews? Actually, I think you were saying you like to ask questions, learn about people.
I think there'd be some fun in that.
Yeah.
I think that sometimes I wish I maybe have gone a little bit more academic. I have some friends who are professors, and it seems like that is kind of a fun life type thing. I think at the end of the day, I could probably find joy in a lot of different fields.
Well, that's great. That's a rare thing. There's a lot of people out there that have a difficult time finding joy in much. So it's great that you can find joy in a lot of different things.
But I think that actually sometimes we're actually telling our kids the wrong thing, where they're supposed to be searching for, this job that actually fulfills them and so forth. And I think sometimes you grow into the job rather than actually just finding that job. And I think that's why kids go to college and they get lost, because they're looking for something that may not be there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And everybody's so obsessed with instant gratification these days that if they don't feel like that it's hit their heart and fulfilled them fully from day one, that they've messed up. And that's not the case. A lot of times, like you said, you can grow into it. Or if you don't, maybe the first profession that you tried, people switch majors all the time. They might realize, oh, actually, there's something different, but they might think that just because they didn't find it the first time, they'll never find happiness or they'll never find contentment. So,
or at least it's better to make a decision and go down one path than not to make any pathway at all.
It's true, yeah. Indecisiveness is also a big thing these days. Anyway, let's get a little bit easier ones. What's your favorite movie?
I have a couple of favorite movies, but I mean, I have movies that I sort of like feel an attachment to.
Okay.
And they're kind of quirky, and then the ones that most people have not watched, so you feel like a personal connection to it. But I mean, everybody, like Shawshank Redemption's on TV, you have to stop and watch it for the 10th time.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Harry Met Sally, you'll do the same thing. But I mean, I always liked The Hudsucker Proxy, which was a Coen Brothers movie that nobody's ever heard of, and it's a great movie.
Including myself.
And and then probably 12 Monkeys.
Okay. Great.
But they're quirky, and I just kind of like that overly directed, interesting presentation.
What's your favorite genre of movies?
I mean, I don't know if I see a lot of movies. I like a lot of different movies. I don't like really horror movies. Okay. I don't like slasher movies.
So everything but that.
Correct.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite quote?
I don't. I mean, I have a story that's sort of like a quote that when I was in college a long time ago, many, many moons ago, and there's one course that I took probably in my sophomore year, and it was sort of like one of these easy, it was sort of labeled as easy course, maybe like a humanities type course, but I mean, they asked us to do an exercise, and with our neighbor, they told somebody to hold a quarter, and they asked the other person to get the quarter out of their hand. So everybody would be, the natural inclination would be somebody to grasp the quarter, and the other people would try to wrestle the hand open. And after a few minutes, what the teacher said, did anybody just ask them to open their hand? And it was like, and I think about that lesson, I mean, over 40 years ago, as a very powerful lesson. But the other thing I also thought is I've also learned not to want the quarter in their hand.
Hey. So you're looking around it. You're challenging it. So we go back to the beginning.
Right.
You're challenging it. You're not just following, listening, learning.
Right, and try to figure out why I possibly would want that quarter.
Yeah, I like that. Well, thanks so much for sitting down with us today and telling a little about yourself and taking the time.
Well, thank you very much.